he decided to go to what do you call it, rents, and like he was really happy about it because Mike Rivera was saying like, oh, I hate the audience at Mr. Stetler is a great guy, but I hate the audience at like
Christians.
Yes, and I'm an atheist, and then of course Rents, and then Rents was kind enough to offer his personal UFO to fly him to California and stuff.
Very nice of him. Very nice of him.
But I was just wondering, like, I created a thread about it at theinfounderground.com, which you didn't respond to. What is your personal opinion about this, man? Like, I know your former contact with the bullshitter, like, he was totally anti-Rivera, but, like, are you, like, does this, like, demean Rivera to be on Rents.com now, on the Rents Radio Network?
Listen, I'll go back to my little period off that I didn't follow any news, and when I did get back into it, I ended up going to what really happened and to Rents, and they're both disinformation very strongly. I'd agree with my former host that these two people you have to be very careful of both of these people, and I don't care what Rivero has to say. Both of them post a lot of bullshit. Now I don't want to joy. I showed you a photo that was posted today, or maybe I did show it to you of a photoshopped Palestinian woman being attacked by a dog, which I could spot. And he was trying to prove, Israeli, attacking the Palestinians, and you see this big dog, a German Shepherd, attacking this poor Palestinian woman. And I think I sent it to yourself and Tom from Wake Up from the Slumber, and that was obviously a Photoshop picture. And I said, what the hell is that about?
Yeah, I mean, the first thought popped in mind. I thought he was just being, overly, let's say, too much of like, being a little too enthusiastic by giving out pictures of Photoshop images of that, because since there are already so many real images he could have used. But
exactly.
But then I thought to myself, okay, like after you point out it was Photoshop, I hadn't noticed it myself. Maybe he put this out there so that like the pro-Israeli groups, the Zion Nazis, can point out, oh look, they faked images. We can't trust any of the images they show.
That's my point. I mean, listen. Rivera can put out, 99% good stories or 90% or 80%, whatever your taste is. But these people can pick out two stories that this is typical Rivera stuff. He's photoshopping Palestinians being attacked by Jewish-owned dogs, and that's not true. This guy, I mean, Joe, I can't read it any other way. I mean, he must have looked at the photos before posting them. Maybe he has an automatic. I know he's active on Twitter, and he's posting. I don't know how he does it for so long. Seems to be a sickness. Trying to keep up with it. An RSS feed, or trying to be an RSS feed. That was an obvious photo that could take down all his credibility, which is very low in my opinion. And he's a big crowd, and he's going to get on to Rents, and maybe get more open, and he talk more bullshit. Sasquatch and German death cults.
Hey, what about one of your other favorite radio hosts, Alex Jones? Like, he's recently had like a big guest, Steve Pieczenik, who was in CIA assassin. 10 years earlier, he had disclosed that 9/11 was an inside job. Now, what he's saying is they're trying to do a new 9/11, and like he has the evidence. He was basically the threat to like the rest of the spooks out there. Like, listen here, people in CIA, NSA, National Intelligence Services, yo, try to pull this up. I'll release so much information, blah, 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 blah. I mean, like...
I think it says it all. He was on the Alex Jones show. This is exactly, Joe, what I'm saying. When I got back from my break, maybe I had 2 months off, I was actually on eBay selling silver. That's basically all I was trying to do, trying to make some money from all the stuff I bought there. And I get back, and you have Rivera pushing the same BS, Rents the same, and Jones has this guy on, a Jewish guy, not to be trusted. But he shows up on the Jones show. I mean, what do you expect? Jones has to keep keep some credibility. He does have a marketing machine. We know his servers have been compromised. We know how many subscribers he had at the time, 80,000, paying, or whatever it was, paying $5 a month plus buying DVDs. So he's a big operation. I think it worked out it was $14 or $30 million from direct sales on the internet, plus his subventions from Herzliya and from running on his own private
money
server,
bombs, basically
money bombs,
money laundering,
money laundering bombs. This is which is the money bomb is typical of the political money bombs. It was interesting to see. On Press TV, a very recent interview with Cynthia McKinney on Press TV, and she was saying that when she was running for election, this guy had showed up and said, "Listen, I want to do some fundraisers for you," and he'd build up the support. He'd have meetings set up and places rented and whatever, and then just before she was to go out, collect a couple of 100,000 or 1,000 or whatever, the guy had said to her, "Did you make the pledge?" Joe, you made a video about my interview with Cynthia McKinney.
Oh, yeah.
What the pledge is. The pledge is, if you want to run in the upper echelons of American politics and British and French and all of them,
yes.
You have to, now the official line is you have to write a paragraph, on your blog, or it has to be quoted in a newspaper or something like that, that you support Israel, you support them killing Palestinians, you support them not going back to 1967.
And Jerusalem as the capital.
Jerusalem as the capital, and it goes on and on. You have the BDS movement, which we'll get on to, Joe, in another show, or maybe with my next guest, my Middle East expert. Not saying that you're not a Middle East expert, Joe.
I'm from the Middle East.
How long did you actually live in Iran?
No, actually, I've hardly ever lived in Iran. I went there, but I've been around the Middle Eastern community, and I do speak the language, so you can say that, for all intents and purposes, I'm quite well acquainted with it, and I do watch Middle Eastern surf. I speak several Middle Eastern languages, but my Arabic's not that great, but I do kind of understand what they're saying when they do speak. So that's one thing I was like, we haven't even touched about these fake revolutions in the Middle East. I mean,
we
on my own
were
show.
getting onto them. We were getting, I was just getting you warmed up there, Joe. We have Mubarak being he's going to be tried for murdering his own people. We have Tunisia, Ben Ali, fleeing to Saudi. We have Syria. We have Lebanon or Libya. Sorry, we have Libya, where the powers that be are in there murdering everybody. What's your take, Joe, on what's going on the Arab unhappiness, the Arab unrest in recent months? What are your first impressions, or what were your impressions? What do you think is now going on?
Well, my very first impression, which I did relay on my show, which everyone disagreed with me upon when I said it, but now they know I was telling the truth, was that it was quite reminiscent of the fake Twitter Green Revolution in Iran. I could instantly see that. This is
Joe, that is. Listen, let's get back to that. The Twitter-led revolution, and I back that up 100%. But go ahead, Joe. We get back to that point. It's very important.
Yes, because I've spoken with other Middle Easterners who are actually in several Middle Eastern countries, and what they continuously point out to me is all these revolutions and such were organized by using Twitter, Facebook, several Middle Eastern.
And then they use satellite phones when they blocked the country.
Oh, not just that, Ognir. Guess what? They happened even worse. They actually had, let's say, so-called, let's call them American telecommunications experts from so-called corporations, CIA fronts, flown in directly to the countries to take over because I haven't explained a little something about technology to the people out there. When you make a phone call, your mobile phone is basically a radio, okay? To make it very simple for you. And to function, there has to be several towers placed around where you are, so that those towers are directly connected by wire to let's say the central telephone junction. Well, what happened was this, in the perfect case was in Libya, in the regions where the Al-Qaeda were able to take over. Before that had occurred, Gaddafi, he turned off all the telecommunications, but what happened was these Americans from let's call it AT&T, Verizon, whatever, all these telecommunications companies were flown directly to Libya to take over those towers
so that the mobile phone networks and internet would function again. So it's not just that like they were using these Twitter and Facebook to organize. They actually had personnel, techies.
They were providing backbone support.
Exactly. I mean,
mobile backbone support.
Exactly. So that also that brings up a pretty good point. I remember after 9/11, because I've been conspiracy. I'm 36. I've been conspiracy theorist since I was 12. So it's exactly 2/3 of my life. I remember seeing that they were talking a lot about fourth generation warfare. It's going to be more info wars. I guess Alex Jones saw the same thing. That's why he bought that domain, InfoWars. And now I didn't realize how important, communications is for organizing people.
Well, I mean, look what happened in Tunisia. We got a fair amount of Al Jazeera in there, which is a Jewish-controlled front. In Egypt, we had them in there every day, and in Syria, we just have a couple of, we don't know what YouTube clips.
Yeah.
Why does it suit these mobile operators, these mobile backbone operators, providing internet and mobile communications that you quite rightly mentioned? Maybe because Syria next up Israel.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what had occurred. I mean, because what I'm thinking about is this, I remember, you remember that one website, Jew-like Productions, they were saying, they were acting like, oh, these revolutions are real and they're going to happen worldwide. And I could tell they were fake because it's
only in the North
Africa and Middle East.
But another thought popped to mind. Okay, they're fake, and then these are just CIA-backed, Mossad-backed revolutions. Why can't we do the same thing? I always wonder about this. I mean, what's stopping? Say I live in Sweden. What's stopping me from, organize a bunch of people for a revolution here in Sweden? I mean, nothing really. I mean, I don't know why we Goyim can't use the same techniques they use against foreign countries, against our own rulers. I mean. Am I just being silly? I mean, maybe it is something we're going to do in the future. I don't know. It's just a thought that popped in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Joe, let's get on to world population changes subject. There's some interesting information coming out this evening that actually most of the world beside Africa are not breeding like rats anymore.
No, they're not.
And that we could have a huge problem in the next 10 to 15 years. I'm talking about a serious problem. I know people like David Duke has been, warning the white people that they're not, they're at 1.2 or 1.5 per couple. The actual white population is going down. He's, we're telling you all about Muslim and black people arriving and whatever. The Asians now, the richer they become, the less families they have. China, the one-child policy that one of my best friends laughed at me when I first told him that was true, and I said Heinz Kissinger was behind that, and he laughed at me. He just said, you don't have a clue what you're talking about, you're an anti-Semite. And then when I produced the papers, now he's an expert on it. If anyone mentioned it at a one-child policy, this guy could tell you all about it, but he had to call me names until he's looked into it. When you hit certain people with certain facts, they're unable to deal with. But the world, Joe, has slowed down. We know financially, and I mean the latest numbers. I know you probably haven't had time to go over the numbers. That we do actually have a serious problem that could all of a sudden spring out. It could be part of the so-called green German debt called Prince Charles. Bring the population down to the Georgia Guidestones, which we should probably talk about another time. The Georgia Guidestones and the history of that, down to 500 million, and we've 2012 coming up to 21st of December, and we'll have more Leo Zagami clowns coming out, giving you, on their Masonic view of the Masons are running it. Anyone tells you the Masons are running it all, then is an idiot. What do you see? How do you see this working out, Joe? What do you see in the next 10, 20 years? I know it's a very generalized question, but if you were given, fairly reliable numbers, that most of the world besides Africa have a stable growth in population, and it's actually declining in real numbers. That all of a sudden, now, for example, I'll tie this into more, give a little bit more background.
Let me just give one simple. There's one particular film that kind of deals with the subject. It was called Children of Men. It was a British film that what happened was that for some reason, I don't remember, there was some accident where no one was able to have any more children in, let's say, England, over that particular continent. And so the population was getting older, and suddenly there was a immigrant lady, black, who happened to have a child, and basically Oprah revolves around, like, chasing her around, find out, like, you know. But what I thought about when I saw this